Good evening. I'm Bob Toomey. Welcome to Around the Old Town. We have a great show tonight. We just started with the Lions Club. We're going to start with, they have a Million Pennies project. So with me tonight are people directly involved. Phil Hamrick, the owner of Timber Lanes Bowling Alley. Michelle Christian Oldham, the media liaison for the Lions Club. And Ken Coyle, the Abington chair, selectman chair, and active member, I think, president of the Lions Club?
Former president.
Former
yes.
president of the Lions Club. Former king of the Lions Club.
Former king, yes.
So we want to get this show jumping. It's really so much involved. You'd be shocked at what it takes to collect a million pennies. So with me tonight, we're going to start with Phil, and then you can please tell us how the project evolved and what it entailed, and these guys can back up your story.
Well, Bob, what happened was it was time to do something different. And one of our members had a list, and I'm an old coin collector, and so it kind of appealed to me. Of course, back then we had no idea how much a million pennies would weigh, how we would do it, but we agreed to do it. And right around the same time, the library had contacted us to fund certain projects. And so kind of both things hit at the same time, and so we blended them together. But then the pennies started coming in. And then we started to realize, or at least I did, that we're going to end up with 3 tons worth of pennies. And we had so many logistical problems. Where are we going to store them? And what's going to happen to my back in the process? Then we talked one day and we said, okay, supposing we actually pull this off, how are we going to get rid of them?
Right.
You don't just put them in your trunk, 3 tons worth of pennies, and drive up to the bank.
Right.
So we contacted our friends at the Abington Bank, and we met with the president and CEO, Andy Raska, the manager, Myra, and the only thing that made sense was to hire an armored car to take them away. And then they would process them and turn a million pennies into $10,000 in a check that we can now give to the library. And not only did they suggest that, they're going to pay for it. It's about $800. And in addition to that, they gave us $1,000 toward the project to get us going.
The Abington Bank.
And they solved so many of our problems, the Abington Bank folks. And they also machine counted the first 2 bags so that we could get an absolute accurate weight, because now we weigh them and we obviously can't count them.
Right.
And so they just solved so many of our problems. And Michelle, with her contacts at the Mariner, got us the publicity that we needed to get the whole thing started. And then everything has literally just snowballed since then. We've been collecting about 100,000 pennies a month. We have 119,000 pennies to go. And so right now we are in possession of 881,000 pennies. In case you can't find any in town, you know where they are. Some people were concerned that we were storing them, that someone would steal them. And no one's going to steal them. Right now it's about 2.5 tons, and I really don't think anyone's going to break in and put them in their trunk.
That's right.
And it's been a ton of fun. It certainly had its headaches. We got a jug in a spring water gallon container, and somebody literally donated 3,000 pennies to it, which was very generous, but they forgot to get all the water out. And we can't weigh them wet, and so we had to dump them out on the rug and use a hairdryer.
Yeah, sure.
And it took us about an hour to dry them. And these are some of the things that we've had to deal with.
Did she think she was laundering the money? Or
It could be, and they were some of the cleanest pennies we've had. Yeah. And so, but the generosity of so many people is what's overwhelmed all of us. We've had instances where people called us and they donated 15,000 pennies, but they couldn't lift them, and so we had to go to the house, and we've done that several times. And between Trucci's Supermarket one day, the collections at the library, and one of the Abington Lions, John Holmes, that I didn't even know was collecting for this project, in one day we took in 60,000 pennies.
Wow.
And then we had to stop processing them right away because we ran out of pails.
I believe it.
And my office was loaded, and I said, we have to move these things. I can't move. And so Michelle, of course, did a video, which helped us a great deal, and you folks have had that on.
Yes.
And when Trucci started collecting pennies, their first drop to us was 27,000.
27,000 pennies.
And last week they gave us 9,400 pennies. and the people are still dropping them off. And one good thing about this is that when this project is over, we will not be able to repeat it because there will be no pennies left in Abington. And we will have taken them all, and maybe 10 years from now they'll build back up again. And it's great that you're doing this for us too, because this is just going to help us. We got to hit a deadline now of November 10th. We have to have 1 million pennies. We're committed. And so at first I got a little nervous, but everyone is just rallying around. And what we need everybody to do is, you have pennies in every drawer, your car, your truck. If you work in an office, they're in every single desk. I know it.
Right.
Unless we've hit it. And so all we need to do is, a lot of people bring us a little bit of pennies. It doesn't have to be 5,000, a little bit from a lot of people, and then we're going to pull this off.
You mentioned some of the significant donors already, but what about young kids? I know you've told me some interesting stories.
We launched it during the St. Patrick's Day Parade. The Lions put in a second float, and somehow they convinced me to dress as a leprechaun. And as the float was passing people, I had a microphone, and it was dozens and dozens and dozens of little kids running up, and I would put my hand out, and it was 3 pennies, and 1 penny, or 4 pennies. And I don't know how many dozens of people, little kids coming up, handing us a roll. And one fellow was standing on the side of the road. He didn't have any pennies, so he gave us a $20 bill.
There you go.
And so all of the cash we get, we buy pennies.
Right, you convert it to pennies.
We have unrolling parties with the Lions Club, and we have one more scheduled.
When is that?
One more, actually we're getting together on October 8th, and it's our last unrolling party where we take all of the rolls that we buy.
It's going to be a big one too.
And it's going to be a big one. It's going to be a lot, and but it's going to be our last one, and we're going to have a few surprises. Abe Lincoln might show up, and so it's been a lot of fun. I'm actually kind of glad that we could do this for the library, and it will be great once this is done, because it's a hassle.
Right,
it's a hassle. Yeah.
Some of the you told me that pennies weigh differently as opposed to quarters and nickels and dimes that are consistent.
We have at work, we have Timberlanes. We have a counting scale, and you can do with nickels, dimes, quarters, and those have to be very exact because of vending machines. But pennies, over the years, they've changed the weight, so the counting function doesn't work, but the weight is right.
Okay.
And the weight, that bag is all set to go. It says Abington Bank on it. It weighs 29.395 pounds. I will bet anything on it. And it only has pennies in it.
Right.
And so we have to sort through everything to make sure. May I show you?
Sure, please.
This is only a sample of some of what we've collected.
Okay. The cameras won't be able to get close up on this, but basically what it is foreign coins.
It's paper clips.
Paper clips.
Subway tokens that they don't use anymore.
Slugs.
There used to be a safety pin in here, but one day one of my employees needed it, and so it came in handy.
Okay, right, it's practical.
We have washers,
Right.
and none of this can be in those bags, and so it's just about everything: hair clips, bobby pins, bread ties, little poker chips, everything you could possibly think of.
Sure.
And we actually want to mount. I think we want to mount that on a little plaque and put it up in the library and say, "And we also collected all of this." And so a lot of my employees have been doing the sorting. We're absolutely very good at it, although it's a talent now that we'll never be able to use again. But and then we load the bags, and then we weigh the bags, we load them, and we put them away. And then somewhere right before the week of just November 16th, we're going to have the big unveiling.
Okay.
And the Lions are going to get together. The Abington Boy Scouts promised to help with the muscle. And now we have to move 6,000 pounds of pennies from the bowling center to the library. Then we have to get them arranged so that they can be viewed, but they're not going to topple down onto somebody because there's an awful lot of weight here. And so that's where we're at with that. And that's only part of what we've collected. There's everything you could think of.
Now, it's not just Abington people, from what I understand, that have donated.
We had a mother and daughter drive up from Duxbury and Kingston because they saw it in the newspaper. They are not members of any Lions Club. They have never been to the library in Abington. They had 4,000 pennies, and they just thought it was a great idea. And they brought it, and we've had people from Quincy, West Brockton, Stoughton, Avon, Braintree, of course Abington, Whitman, and it's just the whole South Shore.
Well, it's obviously
Yeah.
word of mouth, but obviously, Michelle, you've had something to do with it, being the media liaison, spreading the word through the media, written media, and Channel 5 interviewed you today.
Today, yeah.
I didn't have anything to do with the Channel 5.
That's all right. That's the written media and the,
Yeah, I would do the press releases for the Mariner, and I put together the video just to kind of just to show the journey of the last 8 months. And one of the things, actually there's a few things with the parade. We talk about people running up to, the float, dropping the pennies off. It started with Lion Kathy Salem doing a presentation over at the Beaverbrook School, and with all the students, it was about President's Day, and she had all the kids ask them all to decorate a bag and fill them with pennies, bring them to the parade. And I remember Phil saying, Abington Lions need your pennies over the microphone. And the parade route is 2 miles, and I swear, when we walked the whole 2 miles, you could hear just change dropping in the
dropping.
bucket.
Great.
That's one of the things that I remember, and we have a lot of pictures in the video from that. I was at Timberlane's, I think it was a few weeks later. It was my first photo op it was an 8-year-old girl from Halifax, remember?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think her name was Laura Lee, and she was
yeah,
saving her pennies, saving her money for vacation, but the pennies she donated to the
From her
library
vacation.
for her vacation. I'm sure she still went to Disney. But that was what she wanted to do, and that was the first photo op, I think, for the Mariner. And then it was a few weeks later, Deb had, the Teen Advisory Board meets at the library, and they decorated the windows in the library of just the different penny themes, donate your pennies, and that drummed up a lot of, interest
Sure.
within the community. And also, I'm thinking with the Boy Scouts, just all the ages. My son is in Boy Scouts, and they heard about it. They knew any lion that was available, drop your pennies off to, and
Or Trookies or
yeah,
some
or
of the other
Trookies.
establishments.
And but I had a couple Boy Scouts each week. They would give me like a bag of have like 5 pennies in it. So it was fun to journal and show the involvement of everybody in the community.
Right.
And there was just, what was great, it's just unique. It hasn't been done before. There was no age restriction. Everybody is excited.
anyone can participate.
Yeah,
and they're all
so it
gonna
was fun to
benefit.
do. Yeah, it was just really, really fun. This
Now,
whole
the
thing.
Lions Club generally is involved with eyesight, fundraising, and can you relate this to the library?
Absolutely. But before I do that,
Yeah, sure.
I want to talk about the magnitude of this amount of pennies.
Okay, please.
I mean, Phil touched upon the weight, which is 3.14 tons. If you were to count these pennies by hand, count one per second, it would take 11 and a half days to count all the million pennies.
24/7.
Yep, 24/7. If you lay them side by side, I researched this today, so
Yep.
if you lay them side by side, it would be 11.84 miles long trail of pennies. And lastly, stand them up on end, it would be just under a mile's worth of pennies. So that's pretty incredible.
Significant.
And I think the coolest thing is that when Phil first decided to take this on, we thought he was an idiot. This is ridiculous. No one's going to have a million. But now the Lions came out in force. The club
They did.
has rallied around him. We talk about the unwrapping party. When I was the King Lion when this first got brought up, and Phil volunteered to do it. And he said, "Yeah, I'm going to have a million pennies up there." And I said, "Well, let's have 500,000 and just make it look like a million."
Sure. Who's going to know the difference?
Yeah, Phil would know the difference, and Phil said, "No, that's
Yeah.
not going to happen." So I actually went to the bank today and gave them a $1,000 check that we have received in donations,
Right.
and we're having $1,000 worth of pennies delivered for October 8th, so the club can get together and unwrap them. So it's really neat, and the cool thing about that is a lot of the club members that we don't see all the time, they're able to come out and help unwrap, and the club has really been behind this a lot, especially. Let me think, from the other bank that's been helping us out, Sean O'Leary's been
Yeah.
helping us
Oh, yeah.
out. You mentioned Kathy. King Lion this year is Ted Cummins. He's behind it 100%. So it's really a great project. And the Lions generally are known for eyesight, but we also do a lot of things in Abington. A lot of it's behind the scenes. You don't know. We make anonymous donations. And
Sure.
we've actually helped for over 20 years for the public library. We've donated a pass to the Children's Museum. And I think that cost us over $1,000, and we've done that. No one really knows it, but if you want to use, they have a multitude of passes up there that you can go up there and use for the day. The Lions have done that, so we have been involved, and I believe years ago we donated large print books for them too. but it's been a while since we've done anything for the library, so I think it's a good project.
No doubt about it. We also have representatives of the Abington Public Library, Henry DiCarlo and Deb Grimmett, with us. I just want to introduce some volunteers here first. For the last, I just want to make sure you mention the banking people again, because there were, I'm sure, thousands of people that have volunteered and helped out in some capacity, but there are certain people that really have to be mentioned, if you'd like to do that.
It's with all of the logistics, it was the Abington Bank, and it's great because they're a single branch. You walk in, you meet the president and CEO. It's not like all the other banks buying each other up. And we sat with Andy and we sat with Myra, and they solved so many problems so fast.
Right.
And actually, we told him that we would make sure we mentioned them all along the way, and he says, no, it's your project. Well, we have been trying to mention them the entire way. And
Well, similar to the Lions, they do an awful lot under the table, behind the scenes.
And just to back up what Ken said, you could never ever pull this off on your own. And unfortunately, the media and the way it is, like Channel 5 today, was so fast. I even tried to call Ken to get someone else's face on this because it's always my face. And he pulled in just as they were leaving because it's always that fast. And so my picture's been in the paper. But the 40 Lions, they're out there every day, and they are constantly bringing pennies in. And this isn't 10 or 15. There's a lion that just dropped off 11,000 pennies the other day in a bag, and there's no name in it. I have no idea who it was.
Sure.
And so every time these happen, they're out there all over the place. And Lion Paul Schlub uses a cane. I know when he shows up, sometimes he can carry him in and sometimes he can't. But he just keeps bringing them in. I don't want to know where. I don't ask. And that's been so many, but it's also just been little kids and everybody. It's just the generosity is just overwhelming.
Well, it's for a great cause.
Yeah.
And the Lions do an awful lot in town and around the world. So, well, anything you'd like to add before we hit the library people on board? Because we certainly want to talk about the projects that you're going to be assisting with and funding.
Thank you for giving us the time.
Kenny, thank you
Thank
again
you.
for all the Lions too, and Michelle, thank you.
you.
And but by the way, Michelle has another book coming out soon.
Oh,
Another one.
Hopefully it'll be in the
What was the
library.
first one?
Well, since evidently Ken wasn't aware, what was
yeah.
the first book,
the
please?
first book was Sonny the Sneaker, and it's at the Abington Public Library as well.
Okay, and the second book should be...
Santa's Mistake is coming out in October, and there'll be a
Would you mind
fundraiser going
tell
on
me who
for
you
this.
collaborated with on that book?
My father, Bob Pitts.
That's fantastic. See, a family affair, that's what we like to see. Okay, we're going to stop for a minute. We're going to introduce Henry DiCarlo and Deb Grimmett. Kenny, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Michelle, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
And before we break, we have 3 volunteers that are here. Many volunteers have been involved, but 3 of them happen to be here right now. And that's, please come up, Emily, Christian. Just stand right here. I won't embarrass you. Sarah, Christian, and Bobby Barry. I guess Emily and Sarah are involved with the parade and collecting money along the
Yep,
parade
they've
route.
been
And
involved in
Bobby
the parade.
Barry's
They did.
representing Boy
The
Scout
video.
Troop 41, which will help get the pennies to the library or from the library. And again, many, many, many hands have been involved in this, but I just want to recognize these 3 because they're here tonight. Thank you. We're going to take a short break and we'll be back with the library trustees. Thank you. Welcome back to Around the Old Town. With me now is Henry DiCarlo. He's the chairman of the Board of Trustees for the Abington Public Library, and Deb Grimmett, the Public Library Director. And of course, we know Phil Hamrick from the last couple of minutes. Phil, the Lions got involved with the Abington Public Library with the Million Pennies Project. What do you plan on doing?
Well, they approached us because in the Copeland meeting room, the equipment for projection was getting very old. And every time somebody wanted to do a presentation, they'd have to drag it out, and they've got cords on the floor and taping the cords. And if you have sound, they'd bring the speakers out, tape on the floor, liability all over the place, posting people, especially if they turn the lights out. And the whole thing should just be built in. And so that way, somebody wants to use that room, which so many organizations do. That was something I didn't know at the beginning of this project. You bring in your laptop, you plug it in, you go.
Right.
And that's the way it should be. And so that's kind of, I think, the money they were looking for. And then when we said, well, we're probably going to end up with 10,000, then she said, then she started shopping and went, oh, I need two iPads in the teen room and 2 in the adult room. And we said, okay, we can do that. And then it was the large print books. And I think that's the big part for us, is
Right.
because we're about 2 things worldwide. It's vision and literacy. And of course, a large print book is both of those things. And but large print books are expensive. And when you're looking about, now I know all about library budgets, allocating money, you really want to have access to everybody, but you're buying books that only be used by a small number of people, and I'm sure that's always the juggle. And so we decided, and it was kind of like $5,000, $2,500, and $2,500 or something like that. And so everything just fit like a puzzle. And of course they were very excited. I think you folks had tried different funding sources and were coming up with nothing, and then they came to us, and it's just timing, I think, and here we are, we're almost done. Yeah.
Now, you were talking about the unveiling project. When is that?
Sunday, November 16th. It better not snow. And the week before, we have to bring these 3 tons of pennies to the library, get them all situated so they can be displayed. A lot of media is going to be there, which is incredible. We're going to invite anybody who would like to be there, which we expect would be a lot of library people who have made most of the donations, and and who knows, Abe Lincoln might even show up. and I think the Friends of the Library are planning on doing something, and we just want to make it a nice community thing. So many people have donated, and we actually pulled this off, which surprised even me. And we should celebrate that. And the great news is that Deb's going to open the library that's normally closed on Sunday, and we can make all the noise we want. So that's a good thing. I may even ask all the kids to scream just once.
Just once, yeah.
And it's only good for today.
Well, that's exciting. Henry, you must be excited.
We are. On behalf of the library trustees, we think that what Phil and what the Lions are doing is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Phil hit a point that we did go out and apply for some grant money to do some of the things that we need to do in the Copeland room. And Bob, as you know, having served on the board before, the library is now 18 years old.
It's hard to believe.
Yeah, and that equipment was installed and put in 18 years ago, and it's it never really had all the equipment it needed in that room. So this is and it's a thing that we don't have funding for in the regular budget.
Sure.
We need to meet certain state minimums, and this year we came in a few $1,000s below that number with the town, with the budget. So, things are tight. We're using every penny to keep the operation going and maintain the services for people.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. So, we're thrilled to have this project going on and to have the donation coming in and to update the room, to do the large print books, to do some site things. It's just an important part for the library.
No doubt about it. Now, Deb, as Phil said, you must have that room constantly going. Can you help explain some of the uses of the room?
Sure. The Copeland Room's used extensively. It's used by community organizations. We have 3 or 4 Girl Scout troops that meet regularly in the Copeland Room. We've had Boy Scouts. There's a quilting group that meets regularly. There's a writing group. In addition to that, we've hosted meetings for condo associations, the DAR, and that's just community groups. Then there's library programs. And we have children's performers, adult speakers, author nights. And one of the big uses is with our teen advisory board, so that they use it for they'll host family movies where the teenagers kind of set things up, and then we have movies for younger kids, and those are very well attended. So that's one of the movies, and some of our other programs are one of the real issues. We truly do have speakers sitting on chairs with tape around the wires on the floor. Yeah, so it will be very nice to be able to have
being comfortable enough to know that no one's going to trip over this or knock this whole.
Right, and plug and play is a good thing.
Well, that's exciting. You expect to have a screen? A screen and an audio system? Is that the gist of what the donation is?
I never really got into the whole specs. I know the projector certainly needs to be plugged in or built in, and the speakers and everything.
We have a screen that is fine. What we're looking for is a ceiling-mounted projector with the technology for people to use with their laptop, and then also speakers that are mounted properly. As part of applying for another grant, we had gotten an estimate a couple of years ago, and it's right at about the $5,000 mark. So that's kind of where, when
I was talking to Phil, that's kind of where we began.
Right.
I also just wanted to mention
Sure,
too,
please.
large print books. The Lions did donate money for large print books several years ago. We also have, given the size of our library, a very extensive large print collection. Many years ago, we had, in the late 80s or early 90s, a federal grant with Rockland and Holbrook. So we do have, proportionally for the size of the library, we have one of the large print collections on the South Shore. One of the nice things that the Lions donation is going to enable us to do is to update, because obviously some of the books, especially from that grant in the late 80s, early 90s, are worn and tired, and it's time for them to go, and it'll be nice to replace them with things that are new for our large print readers.
While I have you here, what are some of the projects coming up? You always have something going on. Halloween's coming up. I'm sure you have something for the kids there. And, yeah, I know there's always something going on at the library that a lot of people aren't aware of because it's different age groups.
Well, we have lots of things coming up. We have, I mentioned the Teen Advisory Board. We have 40+ members of our Teen Advisory Board. We're very proud of that. That's a huge number for a library's teen group. And they meet once a month, so that'll be happening. We have a kids story craft program coming up. We will be, the children's librarian, our new children's librarian, Amy Hindle, and the assistant librarian for children's services, Sandy Bumpus, will be doing stories at the Abington Lions sponsored Not So Spooky. I know, is it scary? I always get that wrong. Not So Scary Woods on Saturday, October 18th, and we've been participating in that since the first year. So that's an exciting Halloween. That's really become a Halloween tradition, and we're excited to share it with Emily as our new children's librarian. So for people who haven't met Emily, that's Amy. We had a children's librarian named Emily, okay. For people who haven't met Amy, this is a great opportunity to come out and to meet her. So we're looking forward to that.
So to wrap up, we're looking at, what's the date for the opening, the presentation of the points?
The presentation is on November 16th, but we really need everyone's pennies by the 10th because we got to sort them and weigh them and get them in bags and get them over there.
Is there a website?
If they come in after that, we're still going to take them.
Right.
And right now we need 119,000 pennies. That's all we need. And some people think that that's a lot, but according to a million, that's not really all that many.
That's right.
And so we've got the empty pails, we've got the empty bags, we've got the bags ready to go. What we need is the pennies.
Right.
And they can drop them off at Timberlane's, they can drop them off at Trucci's Supermarket, they can drop them off certainly at the library. And these are all around town, and they're in multiple locations. And so if somebody has a little bit, that's good. If they've got a giant spring water bottle full, you really probably shouldn't drop that at the counter at Bemis Drug.
No.
Call us, we'll come and get it.
Right.
And so we're really excited for two reasons. Take care of the library, and that we're actually going to be able to pull this off. But it's we and it's everybody else that's been helping us along the way. So we just need a little bit more.
And Bob, as you know, I mean, the library has always used their budget well. And,
No doubt about it,
So
yes.
we'll put every penny to good
That's right.
use.
You have in the past, and I'm sure you'll continue to do that.
Yeah.
That's, as you were saying, it's hard to get grants with this economy the way it is, and that's why people like the Lions and all the people who contributed play such an important role. And
It really
it's a
is.
team effort and a community effort. So is there a website or something that people can look at, or because you know a lot of these people?
On the Timberlane's website, I keep a total,
Okay.
and I generally keep that pretty up to date. We never really got around to making a Facebook page or anything like that, and
think
it's
you
probably
can.
kind of silly to do it now.
Right.
It's almost over. But right now, I believe the exact total is 881,567, and and then actually we had a drop today at the library. Somebody brought in 5 coffee cans full, and I got a baggie today from Ken Coyle. And somebody dropped some pennies off yesterday, and so and then one of my employees left me one on my desk, and so
It adds up.
It adds up, and we just need a little bit from a lot of people.
Right.
And so if somebody doesn't have 5 cans, they shouldn't feel like they shouldn't donate. Just everybody in town goes to Trucci's every week anyway. Just they have a big jug, just bring them, throw them in, and then we'll do the lugging and the counting, and then. the Abington Bank will pay Loomis to come and lug them away, and then we're going to give these folks a check for $10,000. It's not our money, it's everybody's money. And then I'm going to take a break for a couple months. I'm
your
certainly,
back rest.
well, I think I'm about a half inch shorter now. So, but it's a lot of fun, and all we need to do is one more big push. That's all
Well,
we need.
remember, please, no, it's never too late. You can drop them off at Trukey's, the library, of course, and Timberlane's Bowling Alley, Bowling Center. Please keep that in mind, because it is a community effort, and the library is one of the best investments you can ever make in any community. So please keep that in mind. I want to thank all our guests, Michelle and Ken and Henry and Deb and Phil, of course, and the volunteers that were on, the youngsters, because it is about them too. All generations are going to benefit.
Everybody.
from this.
Absolutely.
I want to thank Justin, of course, for taping this. Before we go, I have one correction to make. I was talking about the Rotary fundraiser Saturday evening. Rotary Club, was it the auction? Yes, and I gave credit to the Lions Club because I've been talking about the Lions Club for almost a year now. So I do apologize to those guys because they do a tremendous job in town too, volunteering, getting the community involved and getting all sorts of, trying to benefit our community. So I owe you a big apology. I do hope the auction went well. It happened to be the same evening as the youth football, high school football game, which I personally was involved in, so I couldn't get up there. But I owe you an apology, and I just want to put it out there. Please remember too, Saturday at 10 a.m. at the Abington High School is the Abington Special Town Meeting regarding the potential new school. So whether you're for it or against it, come out and be heard. Abington High School, 10 a.m. start. Please be there by about 9 o'clock so we can register, get everybody in before we can start. We have to have a quorum. I don't think that'll be an issue, but we're going to have seating for everyone. It's an important issue. Again, whether you're pro or con, make the effort to get out there. It's your community. Justin, thanks for taping this and being involved. And again, all our guests, thank you very much. And keep the Abington Food Pantry in mind. 24/7, they need food. So if you have a chance, drop some food off in any capacity to the Abington Food Pantry. St. Vincent de Paul on Plymouth Street at St. Bridget's. Thank you very much.